However, you get your warnings, you can sleep a lot better knowing that that decision will be made a lot faster and you'll have more time to react.
In Durant for the Forewarned Storm Team, I'm meteorologist Aaron.
It's 5:31. We'll call the meeting to order. Clint, would you provide an invocation, please?
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you thanking you for this opportunity to come together to improve our community. Please bless our citizens and our city leadership as we give this community guidance and understanding in all matters discussed. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Danielle, would you do flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Drew Jackson,
Here.
Clint Horner,
Here.
Whitney Kerr. Here. Shane Knight, Thomas Newsom.
First order of business is consent items. We have the ability to approve both together, I believe. So approving regular minutes. Yeah, if there's anybody who wanted to speak, if you would sign in, please. Is that what you meant? I don't think so. So consider approval of regular minutes of October 4th, 2022, and discussion, consideration, and possible action on 2023 Planning Commission regular meeting calendar. We have a motion on the minutes.
You can do them together, or you can pull them out separate if you need to.
I think we have an item we want to discuss on calendar, so I'll call for a motion on minutes.
I'll make a motion on minutes.
I wasn't here, but I'll still second.
Motion is second. Call for a vote, please. The item on the calendar is scheduled us to have a meeting on July 4th. So we're proposing having the meeting the week before, which would be June 27th. Same day of the week, same time, if that suits you guys.
I make a motion to approve with the amendment of June 26th or 27th, whatever that day would be, instead of July 4th.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please. Moving to the public hearing portion, we'll have discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2022-23, a final plat request for property located near South 9th Avenue and Rodeo Road. Ms. O'Neill.
Good evening. This is a request for a final plat for property near Rodeo Road in South 9th. They are asking to, they're actually now asking to do this in phases due to a title issue. You may remember this came before us last month. But we had to table it due to a title issue. There's still one little hiccup they're working through, and they're just working on some final approvals of that. So they are asking to do this in phases, where there's a phase 1 on the south end of the plat, and then the phase 2 is on the north. You all received an email about that earlier today. For the portion that is, should this be approved, that south portion would wind up being, should that south portion wind up being approved, then they'd be able to get the building permits and all that for that area, and then that north portion would still have to come back for the final approval to go through Planning Commission and City Council for that approval. So just to kind of touch base on that, they are single-family lots. There's a contained total of about 80 lots. I didn't count how many was in that southern portion, but the applicant can probably answer that one. They are all single-family homes. We did not receive any calls or letters about the property. There's a total of 24 acres. The future land use map does have this as low-density residential. Staff did talk to the fire marshal as well as, all of staff as far as the phasing of it. And the streets department got back and said that they were okay with the phasing of it. The fire marshal sent a letter saying that they were, that is okay. They just have to make sure they're conforming to code. They have to check water, with the current developments, phase 1, they'll have to check with fire hydrants and water line and all that, which the water line and infrastructure is already in place. So they'll just have to go through that, and then also check with make sure that there's the access roads and all that, which that's already done. So there's, just to kind of, he's just kind of making sure that they are in line with fire code on each phase now. So that's he's just making sure that that is known.
So you're saying those have been completed?
The roads have been completed. The roads are in. The water and sewer lines also in as well. So, but if there's any other questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to. And the applicant's also here for any questions.
So we're not lacking anything on the performance side then?
No.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. O'Neill?
I just have one. And so
Sure.
I was noticing that at one point when we were first looking at approval of this project, we had expressed serious concerns about the bridge going to this development from 9th Street. And I noticed the city had made an announcement today that they were actually trying to accept bids on fixing that bridge and making it more accessible. Obviously, that's still a long ways down the road.
Right.
But is that the fact that they're trying to work on accessibility there?
That I do not know, honestly. That's not anything that I've been a part of, but that's just, I know there's been talk about it for a while, so that wouldn't surprise me that the streets department's working on that. And just on the preliminary plat we had showed where there's like the lots over the sewer lines, they did remove those and have those as either detention ponds or just open vacant lots. They did not include those on the final plat as well, so just to note that.
Any further questions? Would the applicant like to speak?
Do I need to speak?
Just offering.
Well, it's been a long process and all the infrastructure's in. And I think that it's you know, the citizens showed up out here, everybody remembers that. They had concerns about drainage. I think we substantially improved the drainage in that area because all their water comes across us. So we've got that taken care of. The sewer, you remember the sewer complaints out there? And I remember one of the councilmen asked me if I wanted to get phone calls in the middle of the night. And I said no. And then, you know, Marty came up and said, well, you know, by them being out there, they're going to give us more access to the sewer lines. And it was thick, and we got it all cleared out. And there was, I don't remember how many hundreds of feet were bad, but there were some bad lines collapsed, or we had to replace, I don't know, several hundred feet. I don't know if you remember. But so I feel like by being there that their infrastructure is going to get improved, and then, you know, it's a low density forecasted area, and we changed that to R1, and these are all single family homes. So I feel like it's going to be a good thing in the area, at least for the drainage and their sewer system. So that's my addition to the comment, I guess.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Do y'all have any other concerns or questions? We're ready to get going and start the building, so we're excited about getting started over there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Neil, did we have any letters or emails?
No, we did not.
Okay. Is there anyone who wanted to speak for or against? Okay. Any discussion?
I'll just say I'm actually really pleased at the way this project has gone, and it has been a big improvement. And I had a lot of concerns about that area when we were talking about it, but I'm very happy with the way it's moving.
With whatever motion, we might just keep in mind of the phasing. So.
I thought we were going to tell the applicant he had to do all or none, right?
I mean, you could.
Come on.
I'll make a motion, we approve phase one.
I'll second.
Have a motion to second. Call for a vote, please. Motion passes. 5B is discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2022-28, a rezoning request from A1 General Agriculture to R1 Single Family Residential and a planned unit development for property located near Cemetery Road and Rodeo Road.
This was this is a rezoning and a PUD plat for the planned unit development. This is a 5-acre tract of land that the applicant is asking to be rezoned to R1. The request is to place 9 single-family homes upon the 5 acres. The application states that they're going to be single-family homes with a 2-car garage and a paved driveway. He said that it's going to be expected to be more of a rental-type property. We have received 1 letter of opposition at this time, which is included in your packets. The area is made up of mostly ag and residential zone property. The development does meet the required setbacks, as well as they will have to be required to have sidewalks and streetlights per the new ordinance. The street and water line will be private. They're going to have 2 master meters on the outside of the development, or a master meter, however that'll work. For the water line, there will be aerobic septic systems since there is no sewer in that area. And they will be required to have, they'll have to be approved by DEQ, and they'll also have to be required to have a stormwater permit through DEQ, and then they'll have to provide the normal things like we normally do for all development. For the stormwater permit, and then the SWP3 plans submitted to the city. They'll also need to go through the fire marshal and have the hydraulic calculations once we get a little further in the design process. That's going to be whenever they get building permits and all that at that point. So staff did sign off on this project. There was a few notes made. Most of them were noted already as far as the master meter, having the stormwater permit, and then the hydraulic calculations, things like that. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The applicant's also here if you have any questions for him.
Danielle, the project that's to the west of this, is that something that we've recently dealt with, or is that a different project?
So that one has been rezoned to the R1 for a while. I believe that may have been, trying to remember, it was maybe 2017, 2018, maybe. Because I know it was occurred shortly before I came to Durant. I remember talking to staff about it a while back, but it's been a while.
Okay.
And so that plat for that one is no longer even a valid plat for it, but the zoning still stands.
If you scroll down just a little bit, so we see that water yellow.
Yeah, to be honest, we've done so many projects in and around this area that I didn't remember if this was one I'd seen recently or if this was something else, so.
Yeah, there's been a lot down here.
We had talked about in the past that, if there was going to be a PUD recommended, that there would be a document stating what exactly the request is through the PUD. So there's going to be variations from the standard zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a document that shows exactly what the performance will be?
The main request from this one is mainly because of the having multiple houses on one lot.
Okay, so-
Everything else meets code on the plats.
Okay. Just future reference for, I guess, housekeeping, it would be easier if we had a document that just specified exactly what, any variations, changes, request, or even performance, not necessarily on this one, but, we've talked about, some before, much bigger
Right.
PUDs. If we could get in the habit of having, kind of a 1-page or whatever documentation for the applicant to sign, That way there's some accountability with that. I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, I'll look into that, yep.
So you said the rest conforms to R1
This is
unless,
the last page. Byron, will you show that last page, please? The very last one. It'll be the plat itself. It'll show houses on it and everything.
so it's actually 46.
Thank you. I didn't have a page number.
You have ordinances beyond that, so.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that, yep.
So it looks to me like the lot sizes, if they were individual lots, would be much smaller than R1.
Okay.
Did you all calculate the
I didn't
size?
calculate the size of what the actual, if they sold individually. I just looked at it from just the overall. Because he won't be able to sell them individually by doing this.
Yeah, I understand that they'd be on one parcel, but we're talking about density, and this has
Right.
been designated as a low-density area.
Right.
Obviously, if this is more compact than even an R3, that's not low density. So just wondering, it looks to me, just quick math, that each of these would basically be like on 5,300 foot, which would be more condensed than even R3.
Okay.
Curious if you guys have looked at any of that to confirm
I didn't look at
whether
each.
I'm looking at this right or not.
I didn't look at
Okay.
each one individually, no.
So the request of it being a PUD is really just for it to be all on one parcel.
Correct.
So street widths, everything else is standard.
Yeah, even though it'll be a private street, it'll still have to meet city code and all that.
I know we had a councilman at this last meeting, ask about sewer. Obviously, in aerobic, these would probably be too condensed for aerobic, so I think the councilman was wanting some sort of, answer on, what the approach to sewage would be, so
That's
that may
what,
have not been determined yet, but
well, what I was told by our staff is how it's handled is it's approved by DEQ, and then we don't handle it. If we know that we don't have sewer in that area, then we hand it over to the state DEQ office and let them approve or deny it, because they have a certain set criteria, and that's generally one structure per acre, but they have a different formula with the aerobic systems and spray fields and different things like that.
Has the applicant went to DEQ for approval?
I'm not sure. I'll let the applicant respond to that one.
so I guess I'm a little confused on why this is a PUD versus just a straight R1 with a replat. Is there some reason for that approach?
The main reason again is just because he wanted all of them on one lot, and so with having it on one lot, there's no way of having it be one, on one lot. I mean, I'll let the applicant speak as far as, his reasoning behind it, but that, as far as when we look at it, there is no other way to do it other than handling it as a PUD. Because anytime you deal with more than one structure on a lot, we can't handle it any other way. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. O'Neill?
Is there any benefit to the city for allowing a PUD in this area beyond just more housing available for rent or use by other people?
there's nothing that they're going to offer that, as far as any benefit, like a park or anything like that. No.
I see there's a lot 3 and a lot 5 on both sides of this. Is this a platted addition? And
Yes.
we're just, who owns all that? And is there any covenants?
There's individual owners. That was a replat that was done a couple years ago or so, I guess.
Okay. We don't know if there's any covenants to those.
Not to my
They're all
knowledge.
5
not.
acres, right?
There were 5 acre lots.
tracts.
I'm not remembering any covenants or anything that was tied to that. That would usually be brought up in a title search or deed search. But I'm not aware of any.
And that development's still all ag, right?
Yes.
Any other questions? Would the applicant like to speak?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just.
Oh, you're fine. You're
You had
fine.
a
Appreciate
question
it.
that I was going to answer. The PUD question, he asked why it's a PUD. With the street, it's only 218 foot wide. So with the street and then each lot on each side, there's not enough space to meet the criteria of a subdivision. So that's why we want to do a PUD. Also, we want to keep it looking the same as any other part of the city, a street with houses on each side. So that's another reason. There's no covenants. I went and searched that out for that subdivision and asked the previous owner. So I found no covenants. Let's see.
What about DEQ? Have you visited with them?
We haven't talked to them. Like Danielle said, it'll be approved, otherwise we can't get permits, so it would have to be approved. It's 1 house per half acre is DEQ on aerobics, so we got 5 acres, we only have 9 houses, so there's plenty of land to disperse the water. It's just has to be laid out correctly and they have to approve it. And that will be done before we proceed.
Are these single-family houses?
They're all single-family houses, 2-car garage. There'll be efficient room for 2 cars in the garage, 2 cars in the driveway, and street parking because it'll be city-width streets, even though it's a private street. So there's sufficient parking areas, and the circle at the end is also a big area. Also, there's access from the street to every house, so you don't have to walk through between any houses to get to other houses or anything like that. There's access, there's street access to each house.
Do you have plans for the acreage behind the houses?
No, that would be probably mostly spray zones. That's what we're thinking.
Go back to a question I asked Ms. O'Neill earlier about the spaces. Have you calculated what the area would be per?
I haven't calculated
unit
because it's not a lot, it's all one lot, so I didn't feel like I needed to calculate. It's 5 acres with 9 houses.
My reason for asking that, isn't out of criticism. It's, again, this has been designated as a low-density, area. So, I wanted to see, how compact these are.
I haven't calculated, but another reason we did do that, those are 5-acre tracts, so if the neighbor on either side feels like they want to keep it as one house on their ag tract, they can build it back there and not have neighbors right, to the side of them. So they have all that room. The back half is open. They won't have neighbors right to the side or right in front of them, That's another reason we did it like that.
Do you happen to know so I know this is putting you on the spot, so if you don't remember, that's fine. Do you happen to know the overall width of this floor plan?
We have, it's right there.
I'm doing a rough addition here, but if you had the exact, then
They're like The width of the actual floor plan? Yeah, I have it. I can look it
So 47, 48, something like that.
up. Probably did
So then
vary,
if I
but
take that and go back to the plat, I'll just show you what I'm doing in case I'm messing something up here.
No.
So I take that 48 width and then go to the plat. Looks like there's 15 feet between.
Yeah, it's about 50 foot.
So looking about 60 feet of width, plus or minus.
Yeah, you got 50 and then you got 7, if you had 7.5 between each house, so. Which only required 10. We got 15. And those are just, I mean, that's not set in stone. That was just giving y'all a drawing of a plan that we have that would probably use. And then Danielle asked, and we sent her a few plans that we probably will use. And that's what's being projected. One of them.
So it looks like that total width for the 3 is 190. So I'm looking at I guess that'd be the north side. The length of all 3 would be 190. Does that look right?
Yeah, I mean, you got 50 each house, so that's 150, and then 15 and 15 is 180. I mean, that's the width from edge of house to edge of house. Then you got 30 foot to the street setback, and then probably 20 foot to that cul-de-sac on that north, or that's the north side. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, again, I'm making sure that I'm calculating the area per unit. So it looks like if you just took that 190 divided by 3, each unit would have about a 63-foot width. If you look at the depth, it's going to be 20 plus 50 plus, what's that, 11 and a half.
50.
81 and a half times 63 is about 5,100 square foot per. So that's more dense than an R3. Am I looking at that right?
I mean, you're close. Yeah, I mean, you're, without sitting down and adding it all up perfectly, I mean, yeah, you're probably close.
If you don't mind me asking, now that I'm looking at this on screen, this is making a lot more sense to me. Where's the secondary exit or access point for emergency personnel?
There's a cul-de-sac at the end with a 100-foot radius.
The ordinance is with this being shorter than 500 feet, they're not required.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, appreciate it. We
Thank y'all.
may call on you again here in a minute.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. Is there anyone who wanted to speak in favor or against? If you would come to the microphone, please, and state your name.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Moore. We live in Lot 6. My first time, so sorry. We just kind of have concerns because, like you said, it was supposed to be not very densely populated. We just bought it a couple years ago right after you rezoned it, and it just seems kind of crazy that we're even here when somebody wants to build a neighborhood in the middle of it when there's so much other viable land right there on Rodeo and right around that's, could be sold. And so we are concerned about the road conditions, of course, about the amount of people that are there, the wildlife, obviously, and the wastewater, because the aerobic septic does put off a lot more water than what you might think, especially if you have that many houses. So it just seems kind of like, no offense to them, no, I know that the city needs to grow, but when you want to live like on ag land and you buy it and you develop it and you do all that yourself, and the people on both sides of where they want to do this, I don't even think they know about this. One of them for sure doesn't even speak English. So it just doesn't seem conducive to our dreams. No offense to anybody else.
Only thing I wanted to add, I mean, I know they're saying they're applying for 9 houses on a 5-acre lot, but if you look at it, it's really 9 houses on 2.5 acres because they're not even using the other 2.5.
It's not as like.
And
wide as
it's,
you
I
think.
mean, it's, I thought they had to be further than 20 feet from the property lines. That's what I was told when we built.
Just as clarification, are you Mr. Castro?
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Are you talking about on the rear setback?
No, I'm talking about like on the sides. I thought you had to be more than 20 feet from the property line on either side.
It depends on your zoning.
Oh, it depends on the zoning. So I guess that had to been more if it were, since we were ag. I guess so.
I think the request is for it to be
Yeah, that's
R1.
what I was thinking.
Because we did 50 or 20,
Yeah, I think
50
it
and
was-
75, I think,
yeah.
or something like that. Okay, that's all
All right.
that I had to say.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Any discussion?
So, I mean, I'm just going to be real direct and honest. Nothing against the developers. I mean, I understand why they would want to do this, but I don't like this project. I mean, a PUD is something, at least in my view, that we would only use if there was some real necessity for it, if the property is otherwise undevelopable. Can't talk today, I've talked too much. If there's some problem that stops development, then you use a PUD, but a PUD should not be your first choice to make a property conform the way you want it to conform when it otherwise would not. My other problem with this project is we literally have this quasi-agricultural subdivision going on, and this would put, you know, essentially another little mini subdivision in the middle of this other agricultural subdivision. We do have R1 on the other side. You know, I don't think the neighbors would be able to complain if somebody did something in that quadrant. But then adding R1 right in the middle, you know, smack in the middle of all these other agricultural lots that are part of a bigger complex, that doesn't make sense to me. So that's my problem with it. The plan itself, I mean, I don't, whether you develop it on 2.5 acres versus the full 5 acres, I mean, that's kind of your choice, but I don't think this fits with the area, with everything else that's going on with that section of land. And I don't favor a PUD as being the place we start, so.
Appreciate it. I think I would probably echo some of those sentiments. I don't feel like this is the proper use of a PUD. I feel like, you know, PUDs are intended to meet all the requirements of the zoning and be used for some sort of, transition or to add, additional requirements of the developer. For instance, we would give you R1 if you would X, Y, and Z. This seems to me more like a request for a variance. There's not enough width here, to have a street in the houses between, and the spacing is more dense than an R3. So it just seems like just an improper use. So again, nothing against the developer. I would love to support you, in a project and in a development. It just seems like a PUD is either the wrong approach or the wrong location for it. But I don't know that I have as big an issue with an R1 just because there is some in the area. But to your point and credit, dividing that up right in between, a couple of 5-acre lots is a consideration for sure. But I don't believe it as it sits. It does meet requirements for R1. So.
Yeah, that's my concerns on that is DEQ. I don't think DEQ would probably approve that. I may be wrong, but that's quite a bit of lots there. DEQ will not allow the road to be used as calculation. So if this was on city sewer, a little closer to town, I think that would probably be, in my mind, would fit a little bit better. But as being out in an agricultural area, that might be a concern.
Come on up if you'd like. Yeah, sure.
As in the DEQ or the aerobic, I mean, that really has nothing to do with, you know, getting it approved. I mean, the DEQ has to approve it for us to get permits. So at this point, I feel
Well, my
like,
concern is that we're setting precedents out there already without knowing what could be before for us DEQ.
well, I just don't have any proof that it wouldn't be approved. I mean, I don't know why anyone would think it couldn't be, is what I'm saying. But that's just what I think, and you think otherwise, but that's what I think. As in the zoning, there's R1 right across the street, like 160 acres already been rezoned to R1. So I just wanted to, I know y'all know that, but that's the adjoining property that's rezoned. And it's a PUD because they're regular shape, and that's one reason that you do use a PUD, so it does fall within that criteria. So I'm just pulling that out.
I think for me with the PUD is, you know, with the PUD we're requesting that one, it meet the nature and feel of the area around, and in my mind this doesn't. The second is, you know, I would want it to meet all of the standards that we have for an R1. So again, this feels like a variance. You're wanting to have, you know, more condensed than if you were to replat in R1. So it feels more like a variance than a plan unit development. You know, plan unit development, we would have, you know, additional specifics or additional requirements to an R1.
Well, we're just wanting it to be uniform with other places in the city, like they're doing just where he's doing the subdivision half a mile down the street. It's got a street with houses on either side.
But
If it was
his is a
just-
standard R1. It's not.
Yeah, if
it's
his
not
was
a PUD.
R1, or if mine was just R1 without the PUD, that wouldn't, you couldn't do that.
You
That's
talking
why
about
we're
just
doing-
because of the land shape?
Because of the irregular shape, correct.
Right. Yeah.
The narrowness of it. So that's why we're doing wanting to do a PUD, because the 218 foot does not allow to zone it with R1 without PUD, because then you wouldn't be able to have a house on both sides like every other city street
Yeah.
in Durant.
Yeah, I completely, you know, understand the desire to want to do that, and you know, I don't. I understand why you would want to do that.
Right. I just wanted to.
I just don't think that the irregular shape is preventing you from doing it, and I don't think a PUD is the solution.
So if you could put a single street without a PUD and have a house on either side.
Meaning if there was more space,
Yeah.
then you could do just a traditional R1 without any changes.
You can. You're saying you can. You can do an R1 zoning with, I mean, it would be possible without a PUD to put a street down the middle, houses on either side?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what I
I'm
was
saying
making sure
if
did.
you had enough width,
Right, that's what I'm saying, then.
but you don't.
Their regular shape, which falls within the criteria of an application for a PUD, is the reason why, the main reason why.
Yep.
And also, we want houses on both sides of the street.
And I'm just saying, in my opinion, is there's just simply not enough room on this area to do that.
It falls within the setbacks too of the city criteria also. So they have plenty of room between the houses behind and in front.
If there's plenty of room, you would be just doing an R1 and you wouldn't have a need for a plat. The fact that you don't have enough room is the reason that you wanted to do a PUD. And it's my opinion. I'm not in favor of doing a PUD here.
Okay, I'm just stating how I feel like we're trying to get a PUD approved.
Yeah.
Just making sure everyone's aware of why I feel like we're trying to do it.
Gotcha.
But that's about it. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate it. Any further discussion? You have a motion?
Before I make my motion, I will note, we're an advisory board, so ultimately it will go to city council, what they do or don't want to do. But for my purposes and for the board's purposes tonight, I am going to make a motion to deny both the rezoning request and the PUD request.
I'll second.
Thanks for the clarification. I have a motion to second. Call for a vote, please. Dustin, I don't know if you heard that, but this is just an advisory board, so the council's the one who makes the decision, who meets a week from today at 6. So, yeah. So the item is denied. Any new business? I have a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to second.
To